Elvis2001.net, and we're on Elvis Express Radio, and I have Donna Butterworth, right?
That's correct.
And can you first tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born and where you were raised?
Well, a lot of people thought I was born in Hawaii since I was raised there, but I was actually born in Pennsylvania, and I lived there till I was 3 years old. And my dad was in the big construction boom that was happening over in Hawaii, so he moved us all to Oahu. And I was raised there, and shortly after I got there, I got interested in Hawaiian music and playing the ukulele, and that's kind of how my musical career started.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Hawaii is a great place to be raised. It's a beautiful place to live, and I'm here today.
Wow. I hope to one day to make it to Hawaii. I think a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah, it really is paradise. It's getting a little more crowded than it was back in the great old days, but it's still really paradise.
I know Donna. I know Donna does love Hawaii, but Elvis loved Hawaii.
Oh, yes, Elvis really loved Hawaii. When we were doing Paradise Hawaiian Style together, he absolutely was, I think, his most relaxed when he was in Hawaii.
Yeah.
He was just, you could tell he was just happy. He loved the sun on his skin, and he liked the water, and he just would be always in a really great mood when we were in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. When did you decide that you wanted to go into acting? And you started acting when you were quite young.
Right. Actually, well, like I said, I started playing Hawaiian music, I guess, when I was about 3.5 years old. I was lucky enough to be taught by one of the great Hawaiian composers, Mr. Johnny Almeida. And so pretty soon I was doing little concerts around in the island, and I was performing with Don Ho at the old Duke Kahanamoku's back in the 60s. And then I got invited to perform at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel at the Monarch Room. And on my opening night, the producer of the Andy Williams Show was there. And from there, he wanted to be my manager, and I did the Andy Williams Show, and that got me into acting with Jerry Lewis. And then after that, my biggest dream was to meet Elvis, and it just so happened that Paradise Hawaiian Style was in the works. And since I had already done a few things professionally, I was absolutely delighted to find out that they wanted me in the film, and it was great because we were doing a lot of the filming practically in my backyard in Hawaii.
My goodness. So can you tell me about the first time that you met Elvis?
Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story because we were out on the Makapu'u Point, which is a beautiful scenic point on Oahu that you have to go through a government road to get at. And that's where the crash scene was. And that was actually the first day of filming for me with Elvis. And I had to run up in his arms and, say, Uncle Rick, and explain what happened on the crash. And, I had just met him, I guess, a half an hour before that, kind of shyly. But then when they said action and I had to run up into his arms and look straight in his beautiful face, I just went blank and I couldn't say my words. And everybody started laughing, and the director said, cut, because when I got 3 inches from his face and couldn't believe I was actually in his arms looking at him, I just froze because I was so just thrilled at looking at him. So, yeah, of course I composed myself, and I got it on the second take. But, yeah, that was pretty much my first close-up of meeting with Elvis.
The producer was probably saying, oh, no, she's an Elvis fan.
Well, of course, I think everyone knew that going in. But that's why I think it was so funny, and everyone just laughed, because when I got straight up to him, I just was so enamored, I just couldn't talk.
Yeah. So how was it working with Elvis? I mean, besides that first time, I mean, how do you think he was as an actor? I know you were very young.
Right. Well, I was 10, but I was a pretty smart 10. I knew what was going on, and I had already done that movie with Jerry Lewis, and I was familiar with the process. And Elvis was a fabulous professional, but he was also a fabulous human being because he was so comfortable with everyone, and he always tried to have a lot of fun on the set. And so the 3.5, 4 months that we all were together working here in Hawaii and, of course, at Paramount Studios in Hollywood, he was just just a great guy to be around. He took time out for me. He took time out for the guy who was making the lighting if someone talked to him. I mean, he was just a real human being and a great guy to be around.
So you were able to sit down and have a one-on-one with Elvis and just talk about other things?
Well, sure, and there's a funny story. In fact, Bill Bram, who has he's an Elvis historian, a film historian. He did a wonderful article. He interviewed me for a magazine last year that goes out in London. It's an Elvis quarterly, I think, but he asked me that, and it was a story that, you know, I had already met Priscilla, and I liked her, and, you know, I knew Elvis and her were together, but then, of course, I was only 10, and he's going around kissing these other women in the movie, and I didn't really get how that worked, so he'd had me to lunch. They picked me up in his golf cart that was like 12 feet long, so all his bodyguards could go with him wherever he drove. And he picked me up, took me to his dressing room. He had cheeseburgers, and I had tacos from Del Taco, because that was my favorite. And he sat there for an hour and explained to me the difference between, you know, love and being in love. I mean, a very loving way. He just said, you know, God wants us to love all our brothers and sisters. We're making a movie that's part of the storyline. But, of course, you can only be in love with one person, and that is Priscilla. So here's the king of rock and roll sitting down over cheeseburgers and tacos, taking time out of his enormous life to explain that to 10-year-old me.
Wow.
So I have great memories of Elvis. He was a great guy.
How was Priscilla?
She was lovely. Of course, she was so very young.
Yeah.
And she looked like a little China doll with the hair and the makeup, and she was very quiet. Mm-hmm. But she did come on the set a couple of times, and she was just there, you know, but she was lovely and very friendly, but, you know, more private. You know, she wasn't a loud person at all.
Yeah. I'm sure it was still very new to her, too.
Yeah, it seemed like it. You could tell that she was in awe of the process. You know, making movies is such a neat thing. And I could see that she was interested in that and just would be on the sideline watching everything and, you know, talking to people if they talked to her. But she wasn't a very, you know, boisterous type of gregarious person. You know, she was very classy and quiet, you know. Mm-hmm. But a lovely, lovely person.
Did you run into, was his father Vernon there?
Oh, yeah, he was around, and his girlfriend was around, Dee, I guess her name was.
Yeah, yeah.
They were all in Hawaii with us, and he would be on the set all the time. Mm-hmm. So I saw Vernon a lot.
So is there something that happened on the film that you will remember more than any other part? I mean, was there something funny that happened that you would like to share to the listeners, or?
Well, there was one part where Elvis got into laughing, and he couldn't stop for like 4 hours. It was just hilarious. He was doing the scene in the helicopter with Julie Parrish, and they had all the dogs in the helicopter. Uh-huh. And that was a hard scene to do. And poor Julie, she really got scratched up by those dogs, really in real life. So they were doing that scene in the interiors at Paramount Studio, and it was a frustrating scene, getting the dogs to cooperate. It was just a hard shoot. And Elvis was just in a good mood anyway, but then our director accidentally called one of the poodles a foodle. Uh-huh. And Elvis just lost it. Because Mickey, who was directing the film, you know, Mickey Moore, he was being so serious. And when he called that poodle a foodle, Elvis just lost it. I never seen a man laugh so hard and so long for 4 hours. And then, of course, everybody else started laughing. And it was a very silly thing, but it just made Elvis laugh, and I'll never forget it. Yeah. He had such an infectious laugh, and he loved to laugh. Yeah. So when Elvis got onto something and started cracking up, that was it. Everybody just lost it, and that was just so fun.
Yeah, how was Julie Parrish? I got to interview Julie Parrish a little while right before she passed, and she told me the story how she got all cut up in that helicopter. How was that, Julie?
Oh, all the girls in that film were just lovely people. You know, everyone had fun doing it except for that, you know, when she got really hurt. She got some bad welts from those dogs. That was really bad. But in other words, there's a little bit that goes sometimes. That's part of the business, you know, that happens. But she took it in good stride, and she was just a lovely professional person. All the people were. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone, of course, when a lot of people got to fly to Hawaii to do those scenes, of course, it's a whole different setting. Hawaii is such a lovely, laid-back paradise that it puts people in a good mood anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, all in all, it was a great shoot.
I hope to find out one day.
Oh, yeah, and I am so anxious to see all the co-stars coming up in August when we go to Susanna Lay's Night of 1,000 Stars in Memphis.
Yeah, and I promise to get there. I promise to get there and let the listeners know about Susanna Lee's Night of 1,000 Stars. Can you tell me? So when did the movie wrap up?
I'm trying to remember. I know that we were filming, we started in the summer, and we did in 64 or 5, I believe. And then it wrapped right after Christmas, I believe. And then it came out in 66, I think.
Right.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had a good 4 months together, and it was, you know, it was a great experience.
You know, Elvis did like to do a lot of pranks. Did he pull any of his pranks on the Paradise Hawaiian Style set?
Yeah, him and his boys were always doing something. They were always running around, or somebody trying to catch somebody, or they were laughing about something, or, yeah, they always had something going on. I remember when we were on the beach doing the scene where he lost the key, he liked to have his cooler with ice, and it always had to be full to the top with Pepsi. And if he opened it and took one out, and then the next time he opened it and that one wasn't replaced, he didn't kind of like that too much, you know?
Oh, goodness.
So one time, one of the guys went and Elvis had gotten a Pepsi, and then he went back, I guess half an hour later, because it's hot out on the beach. And he opened the cooler, and every single Pepsi was gone, and all the ice. And, you know, of course, everybody was watching for his reaction. Mm-hmm. But he knew which one of his boys did it, and then that was a chase scene all over that beach, and just you know, kid stuff, but they always were having a ball.
Yeah. So now that the movie's ended, and you're not taping anymore, how do you say goodbye to Elvis Presley?
Well, it's not easy, but of course you realize that everything, you know, like that comes to an end. So I remember that my mother and I were just getting out of our dressing room and getting ready to go in our limo back to the hotel and eventually on an airplane back to Hawaii, and he had walked out of his dressing room in his black pants and black shirt and his black suede shoes, and Joe Esposito and Jerry Schilling were there waiting in his white Rolls Royce. Mm-hmm. And he came up to my mother and gave her a wonderful kiss and a hug, and said how nice it was to know her and working with us. And then he gave me a huge hug and kiss and said what a great time he had working with me and hoped to see me again. And I said the same, and it was a very sincere, heartfelt goodbye. And then he drove away, and I did, and that was that.
Wow. Now, did you go to the grand opening for the show, and did Elvis go? I mean, was there one?
Well, there wasn't really a premiere per se. There was here in Hawaii because it was a big deal for Hawaii that I was in this movie with Elvis. Uh-huh. And I had already kind of had a following here in the islands because I started performing around here at such a young age. So we had a big premiere here in Hawaii. But as far as the big Hollywood premiere, back then on those kind of movies, they really didn't do that. They just kind of opened one day all over the country, and a lot of TV promo and stuff like that. But there wasn't really a premiere per se. Mm-hmm. Did you stay in touch at all after that with Elvis, or no? No, I never really did. I went to see him when he was in concert in Hawaii, when he did the satellite concert. Oh, you were there. Right, and I saw Colonel Parker walking around, and I almost went up to him and almost said, gee, you know, I'd love to go see Elvis, but it just didn't seem right, you know? Yeah. It just didn't seem appropriate at the time, and so I didn't. I regret that now because, of course, you know, just like about 4 years after that, then, of course, we lost him, you know, so. Yeah. I regret that, but I have some solace knowing that, you know, we did a film together, and that'll be around forever. Well, you brought up the sad part of it. So when did you hear and how did you find out that Elvis had passed away? You know, I was in my apartment in Honolulu. I remember this vividly, and I had the radio on, and it came over the radio. And I remember my first instinct was to run to my closet and grab my scrapbook and open it to the page where there was a picture of him and I together. Mm-hmm. And I just cried. like everybody, I guess, did. But, oh, yeah, that was a stunning, horrible day. And it was quite shocking. I knew he was having problems, but, of course, nobody knew the extent. And it was, I'm sure, shocking to the world as well. Of course, it was. But, yeah, that caught me off guard. I remember exactly what my first thing was to go hug that picture of us. That was my first reflex.